dying or just dead.
He said that in 1977. I mean, this trend continued through to the mid-'80s. I mean, maybe even late '80s. People not writing about anything culturally specific when it came to Jewish fiction. It was all about assimilation, all about proving that they were part of mainstream American culture. And then you've got Potok, 1969, writing The Chosen, and then 72, writing My Name is Asher Lev, and doing something completely different than all of his peers were doing.
And now almost all the great Jewish American literature comes from people who are intimately acquainted with Orthodox Judaism, because secular Jewish life has kind of petered out and just merged with the greater American life. So what's distinctive and interesting now are those who stand athwart modernity and say no. Right. So they're much more interesting to write about, and so the great Jewish American stories now are being told around Orthodox Judaism and its tensions with modernity. Would you classify Chaim Potok's books as literature or more as genre fiction?
I think literature. I mean, I think it could go either way, but I mean, I characterize it as literature. You don't?
I'm not sure, but it's certainly it interests me that it's being taught in college, because I mean no one considers Chaim Potok a great writer in the same way we regard Philip Roth or John Updike as great writers. Like Chaim Potok is a popular writer. He's not writing great literature. Like, I love Chaim Potok, love his works to death, but they by no means cannot even be considered as great literature. They're not, they would not rank among the 100 greatest novels written in the 1960s and 70s.
The writing style isn't as precise and brilliant. I mean, he doesn't describe characters the way that Saul Bellow describes characters, right? He doesn't write like Philip Roth. He doesn't. His writing style, his writing techniques aren't necessarily brilliant, but it's the content that's really, really important when it comes to Potok. I mean, but again, I mean, that's something he kind of crosses these boundaries. He doesn't really have a specific place. Is he literature? Is he more of a pop fiction writer? Or was he a pop fiction writer at that time? He's kind of straddling the fence between the two, which it doesn't surprise me given the nature of the work itself, which seems kind of, strung up between two worlds.
So. He's a little bit like Herman Wouk.
Yeah.
And not a great crafter of sentences, but can tell a compelling story.
Right. He's a good storyteller.
He's a good storyteller, but you can't, by no means...
You're not going to fall in love with the rhythm of his language.
Writing.
Right, no.
But he's a very competent storyteller, like, John Grisham is a great storyteller. That he's not, like, he doesn't write composed, beautiful sentences. Like, John Updike writes some of the most lyrical, gorgeous sentences that you'll ever find. Chaim Potok does not belong in the same sentence with John Updike. This is not great literature. So I'm kind of curious, what kind of class would teach My Name is Asher Lev? Because it's not great literature, so what...
Well, this Buffy's course is it Intro to Fiction, I think?
So who else would she be teaching, do you know?
I know she's doing Flannery O'Connor, I think. I mean, we talked about this, and she's going to kill me for having forgotten, but she's doing a wide variety of fiction. I taught this class at Purdue when I was there, and I taught everything from Conrad's The Heart of Darkness to what else? To Rebecca Goldstein, The Mind-Body Problem.
Rebecca Goldstein is much more literary than Chaim Potok.
Oh yeah, but she's a philosopher.
She's a philosopher, yeah.
So, and I taught Arundhati Roy, The God of Small Things. I don't know if you've ever read that.
No.
It's really good. But it's a big survey. I mean, and it's really kind of up for grabs what gets taught in those intro to fiction classes. I have seen Chaim Potok on the syllabi, though, of 20th century American fiction courses that are not Jewish American fiction courses, just American. I've seen him. Yeah. Which I always think is so interesting because he strikes me as so Jewish. I mean, I wouldn't even teach Potok in a 20th century American fiction course.
I would never think of him as one of the great writers of American fiction in the 20th century. Like, unless...
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that, but I think he's really, really significant. I just think that what he was doing was so, so unexpected and so unpopular and not trendy. Everybody was trying to get away from identity politics.
So many people have followed in his footsteps, like the romance reader. I don't know if you read that.
Oh yeah, Pearl Abraham. But she was the first woman, I think, to address the insular world of Hasidic. But
very
from
similar.
A woman, a young girl's perspective. Yeah, I've been thinking about the romance reader the whole time.
It's about a young Hasidic woman's journey outside of Hasidic Judaism, in part through becoming a lifeguard.
And it's like Potok. It's not the greatest writing. I mean,
But it's a great story. Yeah, it's compelling. Those stories.
It's very compelling. Yeah.
And she didn't have nearly as much commercial success when she ventured outside that genre.
Right.
So, like, people want to read stories about these insular communities.
They do. Yeah. Allegra Goodman wrote a novel called Cotterskill Falls. That's about an Orthodox world. That's ultra-Orthodox.
Yeah, Haredi, yeah.
Yeah, but Allegra Goodman is a much better writer than Potok or Abraham, I think.
Yeah.
Her sentences are much, much better.
I mean, did you read her book on science? About
Goodman? Intuition?
I think, was that about a scientist?
They're in the lab. And yeah. I liked that.
I really liked that.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good book.
Good,
I'm reading
the books of short stories.
Allegra Goodman's a fantastic writer. I am reading Pearl Abraham's newest book, American Taliban, right now.
Oh, really? What's that about?
It's about, it's not really, there aren't really any Jewish themes at all, which surprised me, but it's about this young kid. He defers his undergraduate program at Brown, decides to take a year off, just read and figure out who he is. He's reading Emerson, Thoreau, he's on a spiritual quest. Well, he gets in this chat room, starts talking to these people who do Arabic literature, and navigates toward Islam. And I think something bad's going to happen. I don't know what it is, but it's good so far. I mean, I'm not blown away, but it's compelling enough for me to keep reading.
So if you were teaching American Jewish literature, what books have you chosen to teach?
Well, last year at UCLA, I taught a lot of contemporary stuff, but I did Saul Bellow, I did Philip Roth, American Pastoral, but I did newer writers like Ehud Havazolat, who wrote Bearing the Body, and again, this is somebody who, this is somebody who was Orthodox, and has left Orthodoxy, but yet he keeps returning to it in his work. So you get this interesting kind of dynamic of conflict and struggle. I taught Nathan Englander, same thing, running from Orthodoxy. It's Steve Stern. Rebecca Goldstein, I taught Mazel. I like a lot of the newer writers.
Have you ever chosen to teach Potok?
I've never taught Potok.
And why not?
Because I think they're better writers, and I am a lover of fine language and sentences and wording. I like the feel of good writing. And, again, I guess maybe I've thought that Potok is a little too Jewish. And also, I never thought about teaching My Name is Asher Lev. I always thought, if I taught Potok, I would teach The Chosen. And it has so much to do with baseball, and I hate baseball. So that might be why, too. Like, I would never teach The Natural, Bernard Malamud's The Natural, just because I hate baseball. So it's a really ridiculous reason. But.
So this is the novel of Potok's that I identified the most with. I identified with it as a kid, and I remember once my mother accusing me of kind of carrying out a crucifixion of my own, similar to Asher Lev's. And what kid doesn't envision himself as brilliant and having special gifts? Again, it's like the kind of the Harry Potter phenomenon. I was born, I have special gifts, and other people don't understand me. Yeah. Like, it's irresistible. Like Rebecca Goldstein, her first novel was the most successful of her novels by far, because it had such a compelling premise. I was married to a genius. I think that was her first sentence. People want to read novels like that. It's called high concept here in Hollywood, and high concept means that you can encapsulate the story in a single sentence. So, My Name is Asher Lev is a high concept novel. which means it's it's very simple. It's like it's got a peg that you can immediately